Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Brookings. My name is John MacArthur. I am what's known as the team mascot for the Sustainable Development Goals, but also a senior fellow here at Brookings, a senior advisor to the UN Foundation, and partner with the JICA Research Institute. We're here today to talk about a book, Leave No One Behind, and also the ideas around it. This is a project that came together through a long-standing cooperation between Brookings and the JICA Research Institute. We're very grateful to their support and their collaboration in this. Thank you. But it's coming in the context of a broader moment of thinking through what are the Sustainable Development Goals for, what are they meant to achieve, and what do they need to be achieved. Homi and Karas, who is the co-editor here at Brookings with Izumi Ono and myself, we had a conversation almost a couple of years ago where we said, and we're taking stock on the Sustainable Development Goals, there's this through-line pledge, a through-line pledge that the ambassadors who are negotiating the goals said over and over again, especially if one looks back to the final day when the goals were set on Sunday, August the 2nd, 2015, when the negotiators brought to a conclusion 3 years of work to say, what's this all for? And we have one of those negotiators here today, Ambassador Elizabeth Cousins, who is the US lead negotiator. In that final day, the thing that people kept saying over and over again is, we will leave no one behind. Our commitment in taking on these goals, yes, is to tackle the issues of global sustainability. Yes, it's to tackle the issues of global prosperity. But above all, the first among equals is the pledge to leave no one behind. So in thinking about that, we said, as analysts and researchers and sometime practitioners, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to take on a pledge of no one left behind? Who's about to get left behind? And what would it mean to think through what it would do or what it would look like to take it on? As we thought about it and we convened a tremendous roster of authors and analysts, we realized that it came down to specifics. Specific people facing specific problems in specific places. To the extent, I personally have started to think we should be thinking about the SDGs not as the Sustainable Development Goals, but as the specific development goals. Because they are ultimately about people facing problems in the places where they live. So we decided to take that to heart. And if this will work, can we bring up the screen? We even did some analytics that Homi and I and a former colleague of ours, Krista Rasmussen, who's now based at UN Foundation, we said, well, what would it look like to actually think through who's on track to get left behind? And in that context, we said, well, a lot of these issues are life and death. The Sustainable Development Goals have commitments to get child mortality down to no more than 25 deaths per 1,000 live births in every country by 2030. They have a commitment to get non-communicable disease mortality down by 1/3 in every country, wherever it started. They have a commitment to cut suicide, homicide, maternal mortality, and traffic deaths. Well, those big pledges, those admirable pledges that presumably each of us would all endorse, those come down to specific people's lives. And as we looked at the math in very basic terms, we said, well, you can actually look at how each country is doing, and if the world and each country keeps going as it's going, then you can see how many people will live or die. What's the difference if we fulfill this commitment or not? So this is, in my view, the starkest form of whether people get left behind or not. It's whether they even get the chance to live. And by our estimation, there are 44 million lives at stake. About 29 million who will die prematurely from non-communicable disease, about 9 million children who will die before their 5th birthday, and more than 1 million each from suicide, homicide, maternal mortality, and traffic deaths. That's the difference between what the world is doing right now and what it's promised to do by 2030. Those are specific people in specific places facing very specific problems. But the goals, of course, are bigger than that. This is just the people-focused side of it. This isn't meant in any way to diminish the challenges of climate or oceans or biodiversity, but it is meant to focus in on the people dimension of this problem. And when we looked at these broader challenges, if you can see this, these are the number of millions of people whose basic needs are on track to get left behind through our best estimate. Air pollution, there's a commitment to cut air pollution. We said, well, what if we at least interpret that as cut it by half? Well, and the new Director General of the World Health Organization has really taken this on with gusto in the past year. More than 90% of the world is living in mortality-augmenting air pollution. So if that's not cut by half, at least 3.6 billion people will be suffering with that. We looked at inequality in public leadership, gender inequality, in public leadership. If you look at the discrimination that's seen in women in office, for example, and you see that as representative of societies writ large, at least 1.9 billion, roughly 2 billion women and girls are being excluded in a crude math from equal opportunity to lead in society. One can go down the list: sanitation, undernourishment, access to electricity, extreme poverty, and so forth. Hundreds of millions of people being left behind. These aren't broad abstractions. These are actual people being left behind. And that's our point. Whether each of these numbers is precisely accurate or not is not the point. The point is that there is some specific number of people that we can identify as being left behind. Now, we didn't want to leave any author behind either. These are all the authors. I think we got all except 2, their photos, who were able to contribute, many of whom are here. If you could just raise your hands briefly, some of whom who are here who contributed important chapters. We thank you so much for contributing. But this is just to give a sense of the range of voices and people who brought us to this day for this book. We have topics ranging from gender equality in the first chapter to the second chapter, after the introduction, to challenges of migration, challenges of the ultra poor, challenges of fragility, challenges of smallholder farmers, challenges of places within countries where people are more likely to be left behind. We have a range of angles that are taken, and even the challenges of politics and of power that need to be confronted in order for these goals to be taken seriously. So with that, I'm delighted that we have an extraordinary panel today that you'll hear from in a moment. We have a person who is, without much argument, something of the godfather of the term "leave no one behind" in the Sustainable Development Goal agenda, who is Homi Karas, who's our colleague here at Brookings, who chaired the high-level panel on the post-2015 agenda for the Secretary General, which actually crystallized this concept as a driving thought in 2013 and has been carried through ever since. So we couldn't have a better person to moderate this. We have distinguished ministers from Niger and Dominican Republic, and we have the CEO of the UN Foundation, Kathy Calvin, and we're honored that I think, as some of you might know, this is Kathy's final tour. She has led the United Nations Foundation with distinction for, well, depending on exactly how you count it, roughly a decade. and has been there for nearly 15 years overall, helping to lead the way. And Kathy recently announced that she's stepping down and handing it over to her successor, Elizabeth Cousins. So we're honored that they're here today and able to share in this and share their thoughts as we do so. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our colleague Izumi Ono. Izumi is the director of the JICA Research Institute. She's an accomplished academic and practitioner working on these issues of development, inclusive development, and the social sciences of it for many, many years. She's been an extraordinary collaborator in this project. We're deeply grateful for her practical collaboration as an editor, but also, I would argue, one of the most thoughtful collaborators we've had the chance to work with in recent years, as someone who's clearly dedicated to this, not as an academic exercise, but one that matters for real people. So Izumi, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. And then good morning, everybody. Yeah, with distinguished honorable ministers and guests. My name is Izumi Ono. I just wanted to have a few remarks about this book, and also that because I come from JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, which is a development cooperation agency in Japan. So what does this mean for us? And then finally, I wanted to just a few remarks about what I learned by working through this book together with the Brookings institution. Okay. So I'm very much honored and to be here to share that our book and also messages. And as that John and Homi said, the JICA Research Institute has a long-standing collaboration, research partnership with the Brookings institution over almost 10 years. So actually, this is the 5th volume of collaboration we have had. I think all of them are focusing on how we can do for global development solution in a concrete way. So that previous one was from Summit to Solutions, which just came out after the UN adoption of SDG. We wanted to move from just talking from conferences to actual implementation. Now we wanted to do much further how we can do much more specific action, which people, what kind of problem, what kind of places are likely to be being left behind. So this is a volume which we are really working so much, and we are very much grateful for the Brookings institution and Homi and John. Okay. Let me say just a few words about why we have decided to deal with this topic. Because I think leave no one behind SDG is such an important end, and then this year is a very much important for the world and also for Japan to take it very much seriously. As you know that the 2019 is a highly important year in the various senses. We just had a G20 Osaka summit when Japan led the leadership on the presidency in compiling our communique and the leaders' declaration, which include development issues on the Leave No One Behind. We also had a Yokohama in Tokyo TICAD international conference to discuss Africa, which is a major places where we have to make a major effort to do it. And then we came back from UN SDG summit. So now we have to really take concrete actions. This is why that the Leave No One Behind book is a joint effort for major international policy effort aimed at urging international communities to take specific actions, people, places facing specific problems. I think there are two ways important of this, publication and book. We wanted to move from slogan to implementation. And second of all, I think there are many reports and publications and research are done, but I think many of them are either thematic and also country-focused. But I don't think that the country-focused aggregate data is sufficient. So we have to much more go into detail to really achieve this target of Leave No One Behind. For example, the UN report, World Bank had Atlas for SDG, and then there are lots of, reports which are talking about that each country is having difficulties, but how can we make it happen in each place? That is a very important thing. Okay. Just a few words about the JICA activities. As a development cooperation agency, we really have position paper, how we can achieve better, contribute to SDG in 3 ways. One is we have a core 2 vision of human security and quality growth. Human security is to protect the most vulnerable people from the diverse shocks and risks, and so that they can live in dignity and then freedom for the fear. And also we try to achieve quality of growth in sustainable, resilient, and also inclusive growth. And we wanted to focus on maybe 10 goals directly. At the same time, we wanted to work through partnership to achieve innovation. So we are very much active in various areas: maternal health care, education, disaster relief, infrastructure, various things. At the same time, thinking about that this leave no one behind, I feel like we try to focus on maybe in the area, 10 area in the left side, but I started to feel like by learning from this research collaboration, we have to do more in the innovative way in working with the various partnerships. So we try to keep better our traditional cooperation approach. At the same time, we have to do more in a new innovative approach. So we have to go beyond the traditional approach to the development cooperation, which includes partnership with cities, partnership with the private sectors, and we have to be very much specific about how we can utilize various information data. So that really require that we have to think about technology issues. So we have to really go beyond traditional approach too. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that maybe future. So we are right now in the 2019, and then we have to keep going because we're the kind of 4th year and the 5th year we are entering. And then toward 2013, for Japanese, I think we have a lot of important benchmarks, like Tokyo Olympics in 2020 next year. And then we're also going to have Expo in Osaka. And then I think we are there discussing how we can contribute as a nationwide and also as our citizens to contribute to the SDG sustainable societies. So I hope discussion today will benefit a lot for us to thinking about to take concrete action. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos from Brookings.